Hey, today I'm going to be showing you some tips and tricks for how to use the half rectangle triangle ruler. I have a different tutorial for how to make half rectangle triangles, but this one has a lot of tips and tricks and I've been using it for a while now, so I had a lot more to say. Let me show you. Alright, so I've had this ruler for about a year now, and I think it came out last spring. So I do have a separate video tutorial that was published then for this ruler, but since then, it's been almost a year ago, I have come up with a whole bunch of new tricks and easier ways to use the ruler, and I wanted to share them with you. I have had a lot of questions and messages about the ruler, and apparently it's a little bit different from other half rectangle triangle rulers in that the seam goes directly into your corner. So I get a lot of people saying that if it does that, it will cut your points off, but it doesn't. There it is. There's your point right where it needs to be. Now, if you are trying to make a diamond shape with your half rectangle triangles, you will need to adjust your seam allowance to make that work. All right, so it starts the same way as a half square triangle. You want two fabrics, and you're going to draw a line just like you would on your half square triangles. There's several things that are different. And one of the most important things is that it matters which way you draw your line. So if I draw my line from here to here, I end up with a half rectangle triangle that looks like this. But if I draw my line from here to here, I end up with a half rectangle triangle that looks like this. So let me go ahead and draw the line in both directions so you can see how that works. Alright, so if I was making two star points that butted up, both of them half rectangle triangles, I would definitely want to draw my lines in opposite directions. Same thing if I was making diamonds, I would want a line drawn in both directions. The other thing that's different about half rectangle triangles is that instead of putting it like this and sewing, you actually turn it this way. And you want your corners to meet up, and you want that line going just like this. I'll do the same thing with this one. All right, and then you'll go and you'll sew on both sides of these drawn lines. So let me go ahead and do that so you can see how it works out. All right, so there I am sewn on both sides. And then before I start trimming these up, I want to just give them a little press with my iron. I just feel like it helps flatten that fabric out, and I get a more accurate cut. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut directly on our drawn line. And then before we trim these up, we're gonna get them pressed and looking like a half rectangle triangle. All right, so you always wanna press them open. This will keep them flatter. It'll keep everything, your size, everything more accurate when you can press this seam open. So I like to press them open and then give them a press on the top. I'm gonna do that for all of these. And I'm also going to go ahead and spray them with some starch and get them real crisp and flat. And now we're ready to use the ruler. Okay, so this ruler will make half rectangle triangles up to 4.5 inches wide and 8.5 inches long. It'll make them every size in between there and as small as 2x4. So one thing that I learned pretty quickly after beginning the ruler is that if you're trimming 50 half rectangle triangles, your eyes are going to start to blur, and washi tape can save you some of your vision. My washi tape has measurements on it, but your washi tape doesn't have to. But first you want the longest measurement of your half rectangle triangles. And I'm going to be trimming my half rectangle triangles to 5.5. So I'm going to put this tape right down there on my 5.5 inch line, just like that. And the small number for your half rectangle triangles, you'll get another piece of tape. This piece will be a little bit longer because it's got further to go. And I'm going to be trimming my half rectangle triangles to 3.5 inches wide. So I'm going to put this washi tape strip on the 3.5 inch line. So just like that. All right, and that's going to help me see my lines just a little bit better. All right, so one thing I found is that if you turn it this way, it's a lot easier to maneuver with your rotary cutter. So I like to turn mine this way. And we're going to be using this part of the ruler and then this corner edge of the ruler. You're going to take this corner where my finger is right here, you're going to put it right down there on the seam. And then where my tape meets and also the lines on the ruler meet, you're going to put that on your seam too. All right. You'll press it down with your hand and you're going to trim here and here. Then you're going to rotate, and then you're going to line up this edge, which you've already trimmed. You're going to line that back up right where the tape shows you what line to look at. I'm going to line that with my ruler. Where the tape and the lines meet right here should fall right on my seam. And then you want this corner to also fall on the seam. And then we're going to do the same thing. All right, and then I have a 3.5 by 5.5 inch half rectangle triangle. So let's talk about the opposite side because it's a smidgen different. So this was the one that I drew my line in the opposite direction. So this one's a little bit different because instead of using the inside of my ruler here and the corner, I'm going to be using where the tape is right here on this line and then also where it is on this line. So depending on which direction your half rectangle triangle seam is going is what side you'll use of this ruler. All right, so right here where my finger is right there, that's the part I'm going to put right down there on the top of that seam. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this right here. I'm going to make sure that it's right there on the seam. So just like that. And I'm going to trim around, rotate, and we're going to line this clean edge just like we did last time. We're gonna make it flush with the fabric piece, and we're gonna do the same thing. All right, so there is a half rectangle triangle going the opposite direction. So if I was to sew these together, I'd have star points. If I was to begin making diamonds, here's the thing about the diamonds. Let me get these trimmed up and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about diamonds. All right, I've sewn them into pairs, and anytime you're working with a triangle shape, you always want to press that seam open. So let me get these seams pressed open real fast. All right, here is where the trick comes in. All right, like I started the video talking about, my seam line goes right into these corners. So if I was to sew this together with a 1/4 inch, I would lose these points on the sides. I wouldn't lose the middle points because you've got plenty of room right there. I would lose the points on the side. So instead of sewing it together with a 1/4 inch, we're going to sew it together with a 1/2 inch. So let me go sew this real quick, and then let me go sew this real quick and I'll show you what it looks like with a 1/2 inch seam. 1/2 inch seam, I'm going to press to set it, and then I'm just going to press this open. All right, and then you can see that now I have points on my sides, and I can just sew. If I sewed a 1/4 inch, it wouldn't lose my points. Now, if you are making diamonds, you may want to adjust the size that you trim your half rectangle triangles to allow for the 1/2 inch seam. If my intention of making half rectangle triangles was to make diamonds with them, I should have trimmed them at maybe 3.5 by 5.75 to allow for that 1/2 inch seam. All right, so that is the mystery about the points. I hope that helps. So I think that's all the tips that I have for the half rectangle triangle ruler. So if you don't have a ruler yet, you can get one from me. I have a fabric shop and supply shop at meandriamake.com, or you can get it from havellssewing.com. They also sell it there.